Welcome to Jesus Revolution Online. Here we are once more again. Welcome all you guys on the net, on the web. I'm Brother Bud. Let's go by Brother Bud. Brother Bud. And today I'm going to be telling you about my Filipino trip. But I'm going to the Philippines for a couple weeks as a missionary. And I'm going to try to weave that into my message here. My message is on Abraham, Lot, Sodom, and the City of God. That's my title. So, and after this message, you will never, ever be able to think of Lot the way you've used to thought about Lot. You'll be totally different. Because I think Lot's got a bad rap. He has. My verse is Hebrews 11:10, and it's talking about Abraham. The man of faith, he said, for he looked for the city which has the foundation, whose builder and maker is God. He's talking about Abraham. His vision was for a city that God was going to build in heaven. And that's a good vision. But first I want to talk about Lot and Abraham. In Genesis chapter 13, Lot and Abraham separated because they were so rich. They were just so rich that their workers were fighting over water and resources. And Lot chose to go live in this city. Now, what I've heard in the church, all my church Christian life, is that Lot looked to the east and he saw the green grass and the pastures and everything, and he had lust in his eyes. It's kind of like he chose the sinfulness of the city, and he was like, oh, and he chose the best stuff. And Lot and Abraham, he just stayed in the desert, with God. He chose God, and Lot chose the world. He went to the world, to Sodom and Gomorrah, and he was evil and lustful. But I look at it a different way. I look at it that Lot chose to use his vast resources to reach the city, instead of staying in the desert with Abraham. Though Abraham was not in the desert. Abraham was at the oak of Merom, which anybody that knows anything about oak trees knows they don't grow in the desert. He was in Hebron, it's kind of like, if you study geography, it has the climate of Davis. It has a very nice temple climate. It's a nice place. So Abraham wasn't, in a bad place either. They were both there, and Lot chose to go to Sodom. And even 2 Peter 2:7 says about Lot, it says he was righteous. He was a righteous person who was sorely distressed by the lascivious lifestyle of the wicked. But he went there. Abraham didn't go there. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about Abraham. I know the heavenly witnesses up there that are watching this. So, Abraham, you did good. Don't want to get you offended. I don't want to have to visit you and go, all right, you're in, but you got to go talk to him first. Go see Abraham. But, so he was a good person, which I can understand Peter liked him, because Peter was always kind of second rate. Everybody who says they like Peter, usually it's because of their failures. I say, I like Peter because he was always messing up. People that like Peter, people that like Paul because he was a gung-ho, aggressive person, But the people that aren't that aggressive, I like Peter. I don't like Paul. Paul's too intense. And even Peter said that about Paul. He said, Paul, it says stuff I don't even understand. And so Peter liked Lot, and I like Lot too. He did get I think he's got a bad rap. Now, going to Sodom, see, the reason why they were saying that Lot made a wrong choice, because they have an Old Testament dispensation or teaching of sin. Now, in the Old Testament, sin, the whole purpose of the Old Testament is, one is to show the Redeemer, the crimson thread through the Old Testament of God's plan to redeem humanity. But one of the reasons for the Old Testament is it shows sin as fatal. If you sin, you die. Now, Jason had seen some people out there that were preaching Old Testament doctrine. Sin is fatal. If you go near the sinner, you can get corrupted. Even in Corinthians it says that. Bad character corrupts good intentions, or good character. And That's Old Testament. But Jesus never modeled that. Jesus, whenever he went by bad people, he went and hung out with sinners. Was he corrupted by it? No, because he had something. He had the power of God in his life, and he was an influence to them. See, he had faith in the power of God instead of having faith in sin. In the Old Testament, you had faith in sin. I believe sin is going to get me. It is going to get me. Like, in the Old Testament, if you have a drunk child, you can take them to the city fathers and they'll stone them. That's what it says. If you have a drunken child or a gluttonous child, you can, because sin is fatal in the Old Testament. But in the New Testament, a drunk meets Jesus, what happens? He gets converted. He sees the appeal, or he sees the Father. I was thinking about this. My friend Rick Nicolette, who passed away last year, and how he manifested the God the Father. Because whenever I would see him, his face would light up. Now in Numbers chapter 20, they have like the blessing that the priest is supposed to declare over the people. And one of it is that God's countenance, his face would shine towards the people. And that's what God the Father is. His face is always shining towards us. He's not, angry at us. He's in a good mood and he likes us. He doesn't just love us. I mean, some people, I have to love you. You're in my family, I gotta love you. But I don't like you. God likes us. He doesn't like everything we do, but he likes us. He has faith in us. And I was thinking about my friend Rick and how he always, whenever you would walk in the room, his face would light up. And I think God's face lights up when he sees, because he created us. I mean, it's kind of strange to think that God hates something he created. It's like, oh, I created that thing. I wish I, and they always quote that verse in Genesis. Oh, I'm really ticked off because I made man. But then Noah found favor. It's like, well, God's not angry at us. He's angry at some of the stuff we do, but he's not totally angry at us. And that's what I'm trying to hit against. The battle line in the church in this day and age is about the goodness of God. Is God really good, or is he bad? Is he angry, or is he happy? Or is he in a good mood? Is really the battle line in church today. And we have different people preaching. And I don't know why you would want to serve a God that's angry at you. Unless, of course, you were raised with an angry father and an angry mother, and you went to school and your teachers were mad at you, and you were in football and your coach was angry at you. It's everything. If everywhere you go you manifest anger, or you get in relationship with people that dominate you, and because of their anger, you have an angry boss, an angry spouse, whatever. Then when you go to church, you might want to go to a church where, hey, the pastor's always yelling and angry, because my whole life, everybody who's been in charge has been angry. Of course, God's in charge of the whole world, and he's probably ticked off too. It's just something you manifest. It's like, this is the relationships I have. But what if you had a relationship with the God that's in a good mood, that likes you, that you might want to work for, not work for, but work with. When we go to the Philippines, we preach the good news, the commission, the Great Commission, which is us and him working together. Him working with us, through us. All right, back to my sermon. Think about this. I told you about Jesus, touches the sinner and the sinner gets changed. Think about this. If Abraham and Lot, instead of splitting up, what if they pooled their resources together and tried to change the cities in the valley? They said, you know what? And even think about this. Lot didn't even have a testimony. He didn't have an encounter with God. Abraham had an encounter with God. He's just kind of going on Abraham's shirt tail. In fact, when he went to Sodom and Gomorrah, he said, this is this guy Abraham. We were in, what's your story, Lot? People, when you meet somebody, you always tell them your life story. You try to connect with them. It's like, well, I was with my uncle in the city of Ur. He had this encounter with God. God told him to leave. So I went with him because he knew God. So we followed there, but then we got blessed, so blessed, we had to split up. So now I'm here. But really, that's his testimony. It's like, you guys ought to serve this God too, the God of Abraham. He's a great God. He'll bless you.